But yeah, humanity's fall from grace. So if you guys have been watching my videos recently, you'll be aware that I talk quite a lot about enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, and like what's funny is enlightenment. Say if you like following like the Buddhist path or something, people talk about this word enlightenment a lot, and I've got some friends who follow the Buddhist path, and they have kind of been taught that enlightenment is literally something that can take like lifetimes or thousands of lifetimes to achieve, and that it's almost like this god-given state that like the very few get to achieve. And obviously the Buddha became enlightened, and what from I don't know if it's exactly true, but from what I have kind of gathered, it seems that the Buddhist teachings teach that enlightenment is almost like quite difficult to achieve. So what's interesting is on my journey of kind of learning about spiritual enlightenment and the true spiritual enlightenment, I've been learning that literally anyone can achieve it, and it's not that hard to do. You can achieve it in this lifetime if you want to, if you want to put in the work. And so you guys might know of the term enlightenment through, Santos Bonacci's work. He talks about it. He calls it the holy science. It might be called raising the chrism. There's lots of different names that it has and it goes by, but I just say enlightenment. And it's basically this process of ascending your kundalini and your Christ oil up to your crown chakra. And what it does is it unifies your soul, it gets rid of your ego. It gives you like massive healing. It allows you to basically, you can't create your own negative energy anymore. You're not living in sin anymore. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that the term sin actually means the sine wave. So it actually just means to live out of balance from our true nature. And so when you become enlightened, you attain these things. It illuminates your nervous system, it awakens dormant DNA, it gives you loads of wisdom, and it incarnates your higher self. So the thing with enlightenment is this is our natural state. So when we lived in the Garden of Eden, before humanity fell, we were enlightened, and this is literally just us in balance, humanity in balance. And what happened is I've seen an interesting documentary. It's called like Sex and the Secret Gate to the Garden of Eden or something. And it basically talks about how it was actually the orgasm. When it talks about Eve eating this apple, the apple is actually a representation of the orgasm. And so when she bit into the apple, it's the documentary is saying that she basically orgasmed. And what the orgasm does is it's a spasm to your nervous system. So it's your nervous system spasms and you lose a part of yourself, you lose a part of your soul, you give it away, it basically leaves you and goes into the cosmos. And this is because when we are to have sex, usually, say in the past when we were first created and maybe in the Garden of Eden, when we had sex, especially for men, because they orgasm every time they ejaculate. But when you have sex, it's to create a child. So you give a part of your soul and your life force and energy away every time you do in order to create a child. But if you're literally just orgasming and having sex for fun and you're not doing it to create a child, then you're just giving it away into the cosmos and your energy and chi is lost into the cosmos. Now, what this documentary talks about is that when that happened, when Eve gave away part of her soul, and whether it was actually Eve or whether it was them both or what, I don't know, but when the orgasm happened, basically the part of the soul was lost and she became unenlightened, and or the Adam did, or whoever it was. Maybe it was in birth, I don't know. But somehow humanity fell from grace. They became unenlightened. And that means that the Garden of Eden is almost like heaven on earth paradise. And it's like when you're enlightened, you only manifest positive things because you only create positive things because you're in balance. So you can imagine how the world around you is divine balance, okay, which is the Garden of Eden. So however they fell from grace, whether it was the orgasm, whether it was actually eating like animal products, I'm not sure exactly how they contaminated their soul or gave away part of their soul, which basically made their souls polarized and they lost their enlightenment. But then their souls were not whole and holy anymore. They were divided, they were separate, they were polarized because they've given half of it away through the orgasm or through eating shit. And then what happens is then they're unenlightened, and then they're internally out of balance because they're not in this divine balance that they were before. And so what happens then when you're out of balance, what type of a world do you create and manifest? So I believe that something happened, whether it was the orgasm, whether it was eating meat or whatever it is. They became out of balance, they lost their enlightenment, and then what happened is the world around them, they started manifesting, like, basically when you're out of balance and your chakras aren't aligned and you've got, say, not as much light in each chakra, the chakras then can then become portals and openings and doorways for dark entities, because we bring in, through our chakras, our portals, we can either bring in positive energy and love and light and angels, or we can bring in demons and negative energy. And this is down to how much light we have in our chakras. When our chakras are dimmed and there's a little kind of like there's less light, it allows for the darkness to come through, because they can't come through if it's too bright and too light, it can't come through. But if there's a little opening and there's a bit of a dim chakra, they can come through. So what then happened is that gradually more and more negative energy started coming through their chakra portals into the plane, and then you can see that the state that the world is in now, in how far it descended. So basically humanity started descending, more and more negative energy came in. Then what happens when you're full of negative energy? You start having negative thoughts, you create more negative energy, you start bitching about each other. Like, the spiral goes on, and this is literally just the fall of humanity and how we descended from the Garden of Eden. Now, the Garden of Eden may well have been heaven on earth, and this is where we're going back to again. We're going to manifest heaven on earth again on this plane, and this is coming real soon. So when we look at humanity's fall, something interesting I wanted to share with you guys is actually looking at animals. Okay, so animals, humans on the evolutionary scale are actually above animals. Like, if you were a soul and you came to earth and it was literally your first time, you might start as like a mineral, then reincarnate into like a rock, and then a plant, and then an animal, and you basically work your way up into being incarnation as a human, and then from there you ascend even further to then become an angel or go up into the higher realms and experience life in the higher realms. So we are like kind of the last state before we ascend up out of this plane to become an angel or to go to heaven and things like that. So animals themselves, they are lower than us. So people sometimes, when I talk about being vegan, they'll say to me, but all the animals eat each other, so like it's just a normal thing. Well, no, because we are not like animals. Like, we are meant to be higher than that. We're meant to have ascended from that lower survival mode instinct. Like, most likely, if me and you were in survival mode and there wasn't that much food, I don't think we would resort to trying to eat each other. I just think we would probably, with a good kind heart as a proper human, rather starve to death than fight and kill each other and try and eat each other. So we're not like humans, we're not like animals in that sense. But what I think is, I've got a friend who can speak to spirit and speaks to animals, and there's been two different animals that we've spoke to. One was a lizard, and it was being, this is really sad actually, it was a lizard in a tank, and basically you feed them live crickets, like live insects and stuff. And one of our friends had a live cricket and was putting it in the lizard's face to try and make the lizard eat this live cricket. And what is interesting is that she was a vegan, so it's like, how could you possibly be feeding an animal, a live animal, and be vegan? Because like it's just completely against, like, morally what I would ever wish to do. Like, I could never put an animal to its death right in front of, like, So anyway, the lizard told my friend telepathically that it didn't want to eat that, and it was literally having to be force fed this cricket. It wasn't eating it for fun. It was like it felt like it just had to get this situation over and done with. And we'd also spoke to a bird who was like flying around for prey, and the bird also said that they felt horrible that they had to eat live mice and stuff. And so there's actually animals that don't want to be eating meat, but they do because they trying to survive in the wild and they don't know any better. And you can imagine if you were like a baby bird or something, like an eagle, and your parents, as soon as you're born, your parents come down and they're giving you meat because their parents gave them meat and their parents gave them meat. You can imagine that's all you know you can eat. Or like, and the other thing is meat and its blood and the hormones in meat can be addictive, and this is why adrenochrome, this is a really awful thing to put two and two together. If you do eat meat, you don't really want to hear this, but adrenochrome is an addiction to blood, with the hormones and chemicals in. And is that not the same as eating meat? Like, does that not have the same kind of addiction? So you can imagine the bird then eats the meat while it's a baby, and suddenly it has this thirst for blood and this addiction, even if it doesn't want to. And it could even be that once you do eat the meat and the blood, that negative energy can then come in through you and through your pores because you've lowered yourself that much that then you have like these demons and parasites in you swaying you to eat this meat and stuff. So there's a lot of like control going on with eating meat and stuff that's not even down to the individual person. There's people and animals that are eating meat that don't even want to be doing it, but they just can't get out of the cycle. So I think, well, in the Garden of Eden, the lions lived a lot amongst the lambs. Like, animals didn't kill and eat each other in the Garden of Eden. What it would have most likely have been is that we all live in a symbiotic relationship with each other. This includes all of the plants and stuff. So what it would be is like we eat fruit. All the animals would eat fruit. There'd be loads and loads of different types of plants, different herbs that feed us all different types of nutrients, that cure us and heal us in all different types of ways. And the animals would have eaten these things too. And then we go off and we like have a shit somewhere, and we like shit out the seeds and then the tree can then reproduce. And so the trees assist us and we assist the trees, and it was never that anyone got killed. This was the true divine Garden of Eden. And not only that, but the weather will have been just beautiful sun all the time. Like, there might have been some rain if it was needed, but it would have never been the real extremes of the weather that we experience today. And again, negative and positive weather is due to negative and positive ions in the atmosphere, and we create negative and positive ions with our emotions. And so the Garden of Eden will have had beautiful weather all the time, and they actually talk about the earth plane having that. And even places like, say, Scotland as an example, I talk about it quite a bit, but Scotland will have been able to grow tropical fruit, and England and UK will have been able to grow tropical food, and there probably will have been fruit trees growing everywhere. And now what is it like? It's kind of like there's barely any fruit trees, and it's hard to even grow like an apple tree in your garden or something. So it's changed so much, but the Garden of Eden and heaven on earth is coming back for us as we internally balance ourselves and become enlightened again and start manifesting and bringing forth that divine reality again. So animals never used to eat each other either. I think what could have happened is that humanity fell, and then what they will have done is their bad energy that they started bringing in will have gone and affected some of the animals, and then the animals might have fallen and started doing the same thing and started trying to eat meat and stuff like that because humans started doing it first. Because I do think that we're powerful, we're kind of like gods, and we can sway animals and assist them or like put them off the path. And so I personally think that all the animals in the Garden of Eden, we all loved each other, we all looked after each other, and humanity's fall was what made the animals fall as well. And the animals, like I said, they don't want to be eating meat anymore, and I think that they never were meant to, they never used to. And someone said to me on my TikTok account, they said, it's just the cycle of life, God made it this way. No, the Garden of Eden, no one ate each other, no one killed each other. God, that's what God created. It was humanity's fall and allowing the negative energy in that created this cycle that is not of God. So that's what I wanted to say on all that. So humanity fell, but we are ascending again and we're becoming enlightened again now. I talk about spiritual enlightenment. If you want to learn about it in depth, there's a really, really good book. It's called The Way of Emotion by Chris T. The Way of Emotion. Chris T. It was so, so good. And I got it off Amazon. Get the 18 plus version, and it will literally tell you what the ego is, because your ego is basically your emotions and the way that you allow the negative energy into this cosmos. Once you get rid of your ego, and this book tells you how to get rid of your ego. It tells you how to become back in divine balance internally. It tells you how to become enlightened and unify your soul. This book literally will be your guide to getting back to the state of enlightenment. Now, lastly, on enlightenment, people say, oh, that is the goal. No. Enlightenment is the baseline standard of what we should be, what we always should have been. We should have never descended. So enlightenment is not this, okay, I want to achieve enlightenment, I'm going to be suddenly a millionaire and really wise, and I'm going to be a god and all this. You do attain a godlike energy because you incarnate your higher self when you become enlightened on this plane, but that is because we are all in God's image anyway, and we were meant to be that on this plane. So enlightenment is just the first step on the journey. We need to focus on becoming enlightened. Once we are enlightened, then starts the real journey of being a godlike child of God, like we're meant to be. And from there we can start learning about magic, we can start really gaining our true wisdom, and it's a journey from there. But enlightenment isn't the final goal. It's literally the first step that everyone needs to achieve and attain in order to balance our chemistry and in order to start manifesting truly the earth that we want to live on. If you want to know literally the best way, the biggest way you can ever help humanity, it's literally becoming enlightened and balancing yourself back out. It's doing the self-work yourself. It's like facing your shadow, facing your demons, sorting out your mind, like having positive thoughts, eating better, looking after yourself, learning self-love, and obviously following these steps to actually attaining true enlightenment. Now, enlightenment literally is a biochemical process within. There are literal steps you can take and achieve it. It's not like something that's like a bit vague and you can't really understand what it is or whatever it is. It is literally, there are steps to achieving it. You can achieve it within 4 months if you really wanted to, or you can spend lifetimes, or maybe you even want to just like not bother in this lifetime. It's completely up to you, but I would always advise, if you want to know the best, the most powerful way you could ever help on this earth plane right now, it is to do the work and become enlightened yourself. A last thing then, if you do want to become enlightened, don't tell anyone that you're doing it or that you want to achieve it. I like to talk about enlightenment and talk about like how to achieve it and share the book that I found that really helped me. But sharing my own personal journey towards enlightenment or on enlightenment, I would not advise, because if you tell someone that doesn't understand, or they don't feel like they could, or anything at all, because people's egos get their backs up no matter what. If you start telling people, oh, I'm trying to achieve this, or I'm going to try and go vegan, and I'm going to try and look after myself and self-love and start becoming more wise and get on the path and stuff, what can often happen is people can ridicule you, they can not understand and try and put negative energy on you, and their negative thoughts cast negative spells on you, their negative words cast negative spells on you, and they can literally pull you off the path. They can literally put stuff and blocks in your way that stop you from becoming enlightened. So it's about this journey, doing it yourself. And you'll notice that in the different scriptures, like the Buddha left his wife and kids and fucked off to become enlightened. People like end up going and doing this journey on their own, the hermit's journey. It's like going and doing it yourself. And once you become enlightened, then you can share the wisdom, share the knowledge, tell everyone about it, help other people become enlightened, or whatever it is. So I wanted to share all of that with you. Thanks so much for joining. I'm going to go because I've got a call soon. But it was nice to connect with you guys, and I hope to see you soon.